This is where it all really started for me. The Bill McLaren press suite, named after the greatest rugby commentator ever. This was his home, Murrayfield. And these are the notes. Just look at the detail. These are the notes from his last ever match in 2002, Wales against Scotland. And all of us who followed since, who grew up with Bill on the telly, were lucky enough to work with him for a while at the BBC, follow these notes. This is our inspiration. This is the Holy Grail. This is why we do it. None of us ever get to his standard, but for a couple of hours, pretend that I'm Bill McLaren, which is all right. Anyway, let's go to Bill's seat, and this is where we do the job. So this is Bill's seat, extra specially padded. It was the King's seat, and that feels like nothing else. And you remember the size of Bill's notes. Mine not quite as big, but they do the job for me. I remember very proudly showing these to Bill once. Hello, Gregor. How are you? Gregor loves Bill as much as I do, and Bill loved commentating on Gregor. And actually, one of the things that I drew from Bill was that this is a privilege. And this is fun because you're seeing players like Gregor Townsend in their pomp, who's now Scotland coach, of course, and you've got to enjoy that. This is the best job in the world. Anyway, these notes, I remember showing them very proudly to Bill when I first started to lay them out in some kind of Bill McLaren type fashion. And he looked at them and he said, they'll nae be big enough, laddie. And I just don't have the time to do, what is it, A3? Twice as big as A4. Anyway, this does for me, and it's a week's work. Whenever my family say, what do you do during the week? Why don't you get a proper job Monday to Friday? Monday to Friday for me is filling in this piece of paper. And we've got Scotland on the left-hand side, Australia on the right-hand side today, the 23 players. That's something Bill didn't have to worry about. We've got 46 players to worry about now. Back in the old days, Bill only had 30. Results, the referee, and then a little top line on each of the teams that I'll try to get away within the first 10-15 minutes of the match to frame the contest. And my week is watching games, watching tapes back of old games, the previous weekend's games, going to training sessions, chatting to people like Gregor about why they've picked so-and-so, and just picking up the kind of gossip that I can pick up, that you would love to pick up if you didn't have proper jobs or proper things to do. But because this is how I spend my life, I can get all the gossip that hopefully you'll find interesting during the game, and I write it all down on this sheet. One of the things that Bill taught me was the value of silence, or at least the value of giving your ears a rest at home on the sofa every now and again. You don't want me rabbiting on for 80 minutes. And I'm working with two brilliant co-coms today, Rory Lawson, who is Bill's grandson, by the way. So Rory and I always have lovely chats about Bill whenever we work together up here at Murrayfield. And John Barclay, both of them former Scotland captains, both of them world class at what they do. So as much as I've prepared all these notes, my main job really is to give Rory and John the time to talk about what they're seeing out there. They've captained Scotland. They know a million times more about this than I do. They're the people you really want to hear from. So I'm opening windows for them to talk. And as much as all these numbers that we get are interesting and they might guide us into conversation sometimes, if there was one thing I'd say to young commentators coming through, it would be, don't be dictated to by the numbers. Everybody's talking about stats these days, but I think there's a limited interest in them. You can't spend 80 minutes firing numbers at people. It's still a game of heart and personality, and that's, in my mind, still the most important thing. And this is our box of tricks. There's the old microphone, pictures in the press room with Bill. Not that microphone, I suspect, but that's the kind of lip mic that Bill would have used. Hold it up to your lip, like you're having a shave, and it just cuts out all the ambient crowd noise. It cuts out 67,000 people going bananas when Scotland score a try later. And in this little box of tricks, put my headphones on, I've got about 6 or 7 voices in my head at the same time. So if there are moments during a commentary that you think I'm sounding incoherent, it's probably because I'm listening to several of those 6 or 7 voices. and there are half a dozen pots or dials on here that I can use to control the volume of the matchday director. So the man as it is today who decides which pictures we're seeing during the game. Presentation, so I'm listening to Ryan Wilson right now. Graphics, guy called John today who's feeding me all the information beyond what I can see on the screen. Production assistant, letting me know when replacements are going to be made, if there are head injury assessments, if there are things going on that I need to know about from the touchline. Program as well, and most importantly, the referee and the TMO. So increasingly we can all hear, who's our referee today? Chris Busby from Ireland. So I'll be able to hear Chris in my headphones and the TMO as well. But it's a balancing act. I'm kind of the shop floor steward here. That's the job of the commentator these days. It's to create the spaces for you to enjoy the game. So the bits where I put the microphone down and say nothing and we just hear Murrayfield, but at the same time I'm hearing all of those voices and I'm working out which of those voices you need to know about, what they're saying and whether that's of interest to you. So it's a juggling act. We very rarely get it right, but in our efforts to get it right, there's one man who set the standards, who set the gold standard that we all aspire to, and that's Bill back there and his big sheet. Anyway, it's 50 minutes to kick off. The players are coming out for the warm-ups. So, along with the sheet, my second most trusty accessory, a pair of binoculars, and I'm going to check on boot colours if that's okay with you. Anyway, we're all going to be Bill again for the next couple of hours.